Hello again, University of Washington, EEP598 for Project Management. This is for Team 8. I created a secondary video to kind of complement the first 10.5-minute video that we created in regards to my conflict management and looking back at my transition from government service into this position in cloud computing data centers around the world. I wanted to briefly review some of the feedback I received from my team. They're fantastic, they're wonderful, and many of the points of emphasis that we discussed was originally a lot of my video revolved around personal experiences and how I adapted and overcame the conflict of dealing with this situation where there was no existing library, no existing compendium of knowledge to help me on board into this organization. And I guess I wanted to transition into how I would have done and approached this situation if I was in the executive management, if I was on the executive team. Now let's start with that originally, is that many organizations, many Fortune 500, Fortune 100 organizations and companies and corporations around the world have no idea what they don't know. Right? And that's why it's important for us when you come on board to publicly voice your opinion and share as much knowledge and information as you can with the executive staff. They're often disassociated from the people at the lower rungs of the organization. And as a smaller company that was purchased by a larger subsidiary, they often get lost in translation as they ramp up production, but they only have 2 or 3 people in technical service and support, and they're trying to just get by with what they can. Right? So from the organization's perspective, what should they have done? What they didn't even realize there was an issue until I came on board. But as an executive, what they could have done was, essentially take a lot of information from the engineering team, the technical service and support team, the warranty processes, and then fed that back into maybe a library of 10 different videos, various different case studies, and so on and so forth that they could have used. That's why case studies are so important, even at Stanford and Harvard and MIT, because you can look at where people made mistakes so you can improve on existing processes. Without those areas of vital information, you have no idea how to change it. And it's very difficult for these companies to address disruptive innovation. I mean, the larger the organization is, the slower they move, right? And they don't want to change. They want to maintain the status quo. Many organizations are only good at 1 or 2 things. That's it, right? And we expect them to be good at almost everything when you get onboarded. And the reality is, when you come on an organization, you're often left out into left field. You feel like you're a fish out of water, right? And that's completely normal, especially in today's day and age. So you have to go in with the mindset that you're going to transform and change and evolve the organization with your specific recommendations. You have to continually push and pull. The ebb and flow is like the tidal forces from the moon and the earth. Organizations are very much like that. But the bigger they are, and this organization was a $10 billion organization, they didn't want to change. They didn't want to hear any of the things that I had to say. So attempting to address it directly with a supervisor a month after I'm on, they look at you like you're a problematic employee. So the best thing you can do is put your head down and try to change things under the radar. Without bringing too much conflict on yourself, while also, reaching out and developing camaraderie with the people around you. Project management isn't always like a 0 and 1 situation. We have all these processes in the PMBOK and the PMI that address, how you communicate, how you address conflict, how you resolve things, how you have change orders and all this stuff. But they don't talk about emotional intelligence. EQ, in my opinion, is vastly more important than IQ in almost every single position you'll ever take in the real world. And why is that? Because you have to read other people. And as a new employee, I was reading the executive staff, and I knew where I could push and where I couldn't push. So it's often easier to reflect on these situations and go, well, I would have done this. But when you're immersed in that situation, you realize that often by on the surface, by not showing a lot of movement, kind of like the ocean, right? Or a stable pond, where you see that surface is not a lot of reflection, but underneath there's a lot of currents moving. I attempted to move those currents through executives by telling little stories to the vice president here, to the director here, and trying to connect them so they would come up with a solution on their own, and they felt like they did it and I had nothing to do with it. And you'll often find by doing those connections, the little subversive connections, you'll get things accomplished in a much quicker and efficient manner in larger organizations and corporations. Right? It's very, very important. And the specific feedback that I received from everybody else was, sharing my personal journey is important, but also looking at it from the perspective of human resources. What could have human resources could have done before I came on? Well, again, the HR lady who had been there for 12 years was used to the same thing. It's just like many organizations and many people sell the same product for years and years, and they change a very small thing on the product and then they re-release it, right? They're not trying to change the world. They're not trying to drastically flip everything upside down. They're just trying to get by every single day by doing the bare minimum. And most organizations, like I said, they do one or two things incredibly well, and they focus on that. That focal point is incredible. But everything else gets lost to the wayside. It's kind of how your vision works, right? It's incredible. You have binocular disparity. You're able to look out and perceive depth, but you're really only seeing a small area of the world. Right? Your foveated rendering is only a very small piece of the world. Your brain fills everything else in, and organizations are very much like this, very similar to this, where they're only focusing here, and there's so much going on around in all these other places. And if you are an executive, it is your job to basically put yourself in a position of lower rung employees. So constantly go out to the manufacturing floor, constantly go out to the technical service and department floor, constantly go out to the repair department and see where their pain points are and try to address them internally and develop a program that's sustainable and that the CEO has buy-in. That's one of the bigger problems as well, is attempting to get executive leadership on the board or the vice presidents or the CEOs, to get them to buy into stuff, because again, they're out trying to sell product. They're not trying to do all these change initiatives in the company. That's up to you. That's not up to the CEO. The CEO is trying to lead the organization. You want to come in and change the organization and improve it, that's on you. Take it upon yourself. Take that initiative and take pride in changing the organization in that manner. Again, sharing and empowering people with your knowledge and expertise is one of the best ways to do this, because it develops trust. When people trust you over a period of time, the things that you say, you're going to do it at this time, this is the higher level of your mastery and expertise, that spreads like wildfire throughout the organization. So whether you're an executive or an employee, you can take the same approach, and your mindset needs to be open instead of being obtuse, right? Just like this small angle. You need to open that up so you can really take in all the change initiative, so you can enforce a disruptive innovation approach that will drastically improve and modify and evolve the organization in a way that you see aligns with organizational objectives and against the competitors out on the global marketplace. Thank you again for kind of helping me understand some of these other things that I didn't address in my first presentation. Thank you, Team 8. All of your feedback was fantastic and incredible. I learned so much from you so far, and I look forward to learning from many of the other teams throughout this quarter. I appreciate University of Washington. I appreciate EEP598 Project Management, and thank you, Team 8. You guys all have a wonderful day.